Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us from across the United States and around the world for Jewish National Fund's 2020 Virtual National Conference. To start us off, please welcome our President, Dr. Saul Lizerbram, and our Chief Executive Officer, Russell Robinson, both of whom work tirelessly to ensure that Jewish National Fund remains one of the top-rated charities in the United States and the leading organization for the land and people of Israel.
Good evening, and welcome to Jewish National Fund's 2020 National Conference, the first ever virtual national conference. Of course, we miss everyone and wish we could be all in person, and better yet in Israel. However, we were faced with a difficult choice of postponing this year's in-person national conference in Israel. Jewish National Fund did what it does best. We pivoted. We always stand with the land and people of Israel, and we are using every means possible to keep you, our partners, connected with our work that's impacting the lives of millions every day and educating tomorrow's leaders through our Birth to the Boardroom platform.
Over the next few days, we'll have the opportunity to hear and learn about our strides and accomplishments we have made this past year. We'll be discussing how Jewish National Fund is helping shape the Galilee as the culinary and food capital of the world. We're assisting small businesses to grow, housing sites to be built, young leaders to be inspired. Together, we'll hear how Israel's water technology, through Jewish National Fund, has made it a leader in global food, energy, water security, and meet and hear our affiliates in Israel. We are family. We are one.
The phrase "next year in Jerusalem" has an extra special meaning, and I'm looking forward to all of us seeing each other in Israel for Jewish National Fund's 2021 National Conference next October 10 to the 14th.
Thank you, Saul, and thank you, Russell, for getting us started here. And good evening, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tara Rosenblum. I'm a longtime anchor and reporter with the News 12 network. And most recently, I became our chief investigative reporter. And I also host a political talk show, Power and Politics, that keeps us pretty busy these days. But most notably, I am an extremely proud alumna of the Alexander Muss High School in Israel program. You know, I've been pretty blessed in a 2-decade-long career to have some extraordinary experiences and journeys, but if I had to pick the defining adventure of my life, with all sincerity, I would tell you it was my time spent at HSI. And why do I say that? Is because that journey not only defined the journalist I was about to become, it defined me as a person. I really discovered my spirituality, my purpose. Not to mention I made lifelong best friends that are still my best friends to this day, all these years later. And so I'm such a huge fan of this organization and its advocacy work. And last summer, I had a really amazing full circle experience. I was invited by New York Governor Andrew Cuomo to be the only member of the American Press Corps to join him on a solidarity mission to Israel. And it was a brief trip, but I was able to retrace some of my steps of HSI. And it was a magical time and just reinvigorated my passion for this organization. So needless to say, thank you so much for including me in this year's program. And with that, it is my pleasure to introduce someone who really has his work cut out for him. He currently serves as the permanent representative of Israel to the United Nations and will also soon serve as the next Israeli ambassador to the United States. Please welcome to the Jewish National Fund Conference our friend, Ambassador Gilad Erdan.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tara, for that introduction. I also want to thank the President of Jewish National Fund USA, Dr. Saul Lizerbram, the CEO, Russell Robinson, Chairman Jeff Levine, and the rest of the outstanding leadership team. The incredible work that you do has helped make Israel the wonder that it is. Thank you. I would also like to thank Chairman Emeritus Ronald Lauder for everything that he does for Israel and the Jewish people. I have had the privilege of attending and speaking at this conference before. COVID-19 may have prevented us from being together in Israel this year, but it won't prevent us from coming together to celebrate your unbelievable work in support of the Jewish homeland. I would like to take this opportunity to send a refuah shlema to those who have been affected by the pandemic. Of the different positions that I have held throughout my time in government, my favorite was actually my first, Minister of Environmental Protection. I grew up in Ashkelon, and so the Negev has always been very important to me. When I assumed my position in 2009, I knew that if I wanted to have a real impact on the region, I needed to work with JNF. Even then, it was a driving force in the Negev and the Galilee. I met with my dear friend, Russell, and asked him, Russell, if you could promote any project in the Negev, what would it be? Without hesitation, he said to me, Gilad, I want the citizens of the Negev to have an urban park at least the size of Tel Aviv's Hayarkon Park, but with more facilities. To which I answered, I'm in. I got the government to match the 150 million shekels that JNF raised, and together we built the Beersheba River Park. We turned the once dry and littered river from an environmental nuisance to an ecological wonder, with walkways, bike lanes, and a lake surrounded by trees, flowers, and lawns. A few weeks ago, I was standing on a different lawn at the White House during the historic signing of the Abraham Accords, the peace treaties between Israel, the UAE, and Bahrain. These agreements are truly a miracle, and by the way, I'm sure we will be witnessing a few more in the near future. We have entered a new chapter in Israel's story, an amazing one. The signing of the Accords shows that more and more countries, even ones that refused to have relations with us in the past, see a friendship with Israel as an asset. More and more countries are realizing how much Israel has to offer in the fields of technology and innovation. We became a powerhouse in these fields by empowering all Israelis, no matter their background, to be a part of the high-tech industry and invent the next Waze or Mobileye. Initiatives like the Lauder Employment Center, which has produced over 2,000 high-level jobs in the Negev, helps us do so. More and more countries are realizing how much Israel has to offer in the field of agriculture. Despite adverse conditions, we are a major exporter of fresh produce and a world leader in agricultural technologies. JNF has been at the center of Israeli agriculture from the very beginning. Countries are also realizing how much Israeli culture has to offer. Israel's unique culture is inspired by its diversity, which is celebrated on the screen, in museums, and of course, in the kitchen. The Israeli culinary scene is a huge attraction, and the JNF Galilee Culinary Institute is going to enhance this thriving industry. I can go on and on. In fact, in meetings with ambassadors at the UN, they go on and on. They ask about Israel's security capabilities, about our work on inclusion of persons with disabilities, our medical specialists, and much, much more. We have a lot to celebrate, but we also have a lot of work to do. If anyone needed any more proof of the bias against Israel at the UN, they can just look at the lukewarm reception of the Abraham Accords. You would expect an organization dedicated to peace and security to celebrate such a historic achievement, but that would mean celebrating Israel. So they didn't. Besides the US, who always has our back, not enough is being done at the UN to stop Iran, or even to promote responsible peace between us and the Palestinians. Israel is always willing to make peace when there is a real partner. These are serious challenges, but I know that together we can overcome anything. Friends, as we enter a new era for the State of Israel, one of peace with our regional neighbors and greater prosperity for our people, it is almost hard to believe that such a small, young country has been able to achieve so much so quickly. The reason that we are able to achieve so much is because we are not alone. The Abraham Accords are a result of the tireless effort of Israeli and American officials over the years, and I want to thank them for all of their hard work. But the Accords are also the result of the hard work of advocates for Israel. People who make it their mission to share the truth about Israel and stand up to the anti-Semitic lies of its enemies. These advocates are the over 1,000 non-Jewish graduates of JNF's Faculty Fellowship and Caravan for Democracy programs, both of which I was thrilled to support when I was Minister of Strategic Affairs. All it takes to make someone an advocate for Israel, as you know, is one visit. Israel sells itself. These advocates are the students who have been exposed to JNF's work on 57 campuses across the US and in all of its other inspiring programs. Once people see the beauty, the creativity, the entrepreneurship, they fall in love. These advocates are the over 600,000 JNF donors from across the United States. These advocates are you. JNF is your voice in Israel. And let me tell you, your voice is being heard loud and clear. Your donations makes Israel stronger every single day. But you're also Israel's voice in the US and around the world. And the voice is also being heard loud and clear. On behalf of the State of Israel, I want to thank you for your support and, more importantly, your partnership. You are true stakeholders in Israel. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you. Tonight, I have the privilege of being joined by Russell and Saul to take a look at JNF's achievements this past year and learn how they pivoted during this most unusual time. They will also discuss the organization's strategic vision for the next year and years to come. Let's begin with Saul.
Thank you, Tara. Before we begin our conversation, I want to take a moment to recognize someone very special to us at Jewish National Fund, Harold Kaplan. Harold serves as Vice President, Administration and Compliance on Jewish National Fund's Board of Directors, but his contributions to this organization and Israel are far greater. 3 years ago, when the board requested a review of Jewish National Fund's bylaws and articles of incorporation, it was Harold who established and led the committee to do so. They updated and modernized our corporate structure and governing documents to reflect modern practices as well as the new realities of Jewish National Fund's expanding role as an independent, national, multi-project-driven organization focused on the future and development of the land and people of Israel. Under Harold's leadership, they also updated JNF's 93-year-old certificate of incorporation and updated bylaws to more accurately reflect the Jewish National Fund of today. Harold worked in partnership with the Jewish National Fund's many stakeholders, ensuring a seamless restructure while preserving our historical roots. So, as you can see, there's no one we believe more deserving of this recognition today than Harold Kaplan. Harold, we present you with Jewish National Fund's highest honor, the President's Award, and thank you for your incredible service to this organization.
Saul, thank you so much for this honor. I have to admit, I'm not only honored, but I'm really sort of embarrassed because I know how much so many of you out there who have been working for JNF over the years do for JNF, how much more you do than I did over the years. I'd like to thank the great Constitution and Governance Committee we put together that's put in so much time to analyze and look at creating a infrastructure for JNF that will help it do more and more projects going into the future. In doing so, we got to look back at the history of JNF in the United States from 1926 when it was founded, before there was a state of Israel, and its instrumental role in creating the state of Israel, into today when we become perhaps the greatest steward of the land and people of Israel coming here in the United States. Anyway, thanks again, Sal. I know you've mandated us to look at the corporate bylaws and the corporate structure at least once a century, and I look forward to reconvening the committee at that time.
That was so very special. A big congratulations to you, Harold, on what is clearly such a well-deserved honor. Okay, so let's now begin the conversation portion of our program this evening. We're going to start out addressing the elephant in this virtual room, if you will. COVID-19 took the world by surprise, causing a global health pandemic and disrupting virtually every single aspect of all of our lives. At a time when so many for-profit and not-for-profit organizations have shuttered, Russell, can you tell us how Jewish National Fund has kept alive its connection between its supporters, Israel, and the organization?
Thank you, Tara. So, at Jewish National Fund, we were set up for this quarantine period and this pandemic without even knowing that we were going to have it. We had already had a system that had offices throughout the United States that were working remotely, that we had a center of excellence, so we were connected with our databases, and we had our people already working virtually in so many different ways. So for us, it was flipping the switch. But we took care of the health and safety of our employees. We sent them home. We regrouped. We did as Saul said, we pivoted. We tried to make sense whether we were going to be in this situation for 1 day, 1 month. Nobody knew. But at Jewish National Fund, immediately we called up the Army. The army of thousands upon thousands of volunteers, our lay leaders, our board of directors coming together with our professional staff. And the first thing, Tara, that we did was we made phone calls, thousands of them, just to find out if people were okay. To our, as Saul says, our partners, our donors from throughout the United States. And then we knew we had to communicate. We had to bring people in. So we started having our interactive Zoom calls and Zoom sessions that had thousands of people, hundreds of people, 20 people. Top programming with Fauda and with other top celebrities, and some on our water technology, on our historical sites, talking to our affiliates throughout Israel, bringing them together with us so that we could communicate and they could communicate and find out what was happening in Israel and what we were doing here. We even had a very special moment in Sderot, where we are usually going to their aid. We got a phone call. We run therapeutic centers in Sderot. They called us, Tara, the Jewish National Fund USA, and said, we have therapists. We know that you're going through a tough time. We're going through it with you. So we had a Zoom call with their therapists, with our donors. Now that shows you the partnership the Jewish National Fund had built. So we're months into this. We're still pivoting, but we have made unbelievable strides. During this whole thing, we decided that we were going to have a spectacular Sunday. A 4-hour telethon, thousands of people making phone calls, calling in, coming online. One of the most successful fundraising days in the history of Jewish National Fund. We're pivoting, but we're progressing and moving forward.
Just incredible, Russell. And really, you had me at Fauda. I was unaware that you had a behind-the-scenes look at my quarantine obsession, so my fingers are crossed that you recorded that and I can catch up at a later time. But clearly, not to mention even the entertainment value, these virtual programs, I would guess, have brought just a sense of normalcy to so many people who need it. And one program in particular really caught my attention, these virtual tours to Israel. Saul, can you tell us more about those?
Sure, Tara. Let me tell you about how this all started. It's sort of a nice story. My wife, Lauren, a few months ago said to me, our Jewish national family really misses getting together. whether it's tours or missions or breakfasts or dinners. So we were just talking, and then the next morning I woke up and I said, well, why can't we have a virtual mission, a virtual bus? And I called Russell. It was on a Sunday at 5 o'clock in the morning in San Diego. He answered the phone. I told him the concept. 25 Zoom families would get into a virtual bus, hire a licensed Israeli tour guide, and we'll tour Israel. We'll do it Monday through Thursday, an hour a day, and then after that, we can schmooze for an hour with the members on our bus. So we decided to do a bus from San Diego, and it worked great. So, and it continues now. The reception has been fabulous. Plus, don't forget that the tourism in Israel is virtually shut down. So these tour guides are very, very happy to work for the JNF and have some revenue. So what we do is we maximize the bus to 25 Zoom households. So it feels like a real bus. 1 hour of touring Monday through Thursday with the certified tour guide, followed by our schmooze time. And then on Fridays, some of the buses decided to get together and have Shabbat dinners together. It really makes you feel like you're there, all from the comfort of your home. You don't have to go through TSA. You don't have to get on a plane. And the registration fee goes directly to helping Israel's economic recovery. This response has been overwhelming. Which has been covered by CBS, Fox News, Jerusalem Post, just to mention a few. And to date, we've had over 3,800 people visit Israel on over 170 virtual tours. And it continues. They're not stopping. So if anybody's interested, the buses are ready to go. Sign up at jnf.org/virtual tours.
Those are huge numbers. That is just incredible participation. Congratulations on that. But for all of us, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've all been inundated with all kinds of data and statistics. Every morning you open up the newspaper, right? But from the early days in the pandemic, there was one study in particular that really haunted me. And it found, are you ready for this? In the course of one day, over 1 million Israelis became unemployed. So the question for you, Russell, is how has Jewish National Fund responded to that record level of unemployment?
So Tara, it's a great question. Those 1 million Israelis, we know them and they know us. We are together with them and we know who they are, their names. And, so I think you take an idea that Saul and Lauren had about a virtual mission. And so what do you want to do on a mission? You need to go shopping. Well, we have a small business association up in the western part of the Galilee, and we have a tourist center. So we thought if their tourism and their lifeblood is gone because people aren't visiting, let's get them to go shopping. So we started Mitzvah Marketplace. Yeah, a QVC of the Jewish world. And online, you go to our Mitzvah Marketplace, just go to jnf.org/shopping. And you go there and you can see all the places that you would have when you got off the bus in Akko. You could have gone shopping. You could buy glassware, you could buy wine, you could buy jewelry. And we even took one of our employees who was at our tourist center, who had never been on camera before, and we told her she was the new star of the Mitzvah Marketplace. So go online, see our Mitzvah Marketplace, see some of our shows that go on every single week, and you just watch them and repeat them on our YouTube channel, and you could go shopping in Israel. So our virtual missions give you a time to get together and then go shop together. And that's how we have helped those small businesses in Israel.
So creative and so entrepreneurial, Russell. Thank you. On another topic, Israeli cuisine has become world famous, and we're hearing there are plans to transform Israel into the culinary capital of the world. Can you tell us more about this? Saul, this one's for you.
Thanks, Tara. The Galilee has an amazing potential. like the Napa Valley of Israel or the Tuscany of Italy, known as the food basket of Israel. It's a great mix of people, ethnicities, all kinds of backgrounds, and basically it's an untapped resource. At the core of Jewish National Fund's vision for the Galilee and the greater Kiryat Shimona area is the Galilee Culinary Institute by JNF, or as we call it, GCI by JNF, directed by renowned chef and spice master Lior Lev Sarkars. Students from all over the world will come there, and they'll learn culinary arts through the hands-on experiences and connections with culinary entrepreneurs and food professionals across Israel and the globe. They're going to have access to innovative food technology, fresh ingredients found year-round, grown right there in Kiryat Shimona. The curriculum will be overseen by Lior. Students will learn from prominent visiting international chefs, experts in cheese and winemakers, farm to table, and virtually everything in between. And the graduates from our Rosenfield School of Culinary Arts will be some of the finest chefs in the world, ready to succeed in the culinary world. First class will start in the fall of 2022, and registration for the first group is almost closed. Russell, do you want to add anything to that?
So, why are we doing a culinary institute in the greater Kiryat Shimona area? Because we have objectives, we have a vision. Our vision is up in that area how to add another 50,000 people over the next 10 years. So the Culinary Institute is an opportunity, a tool, if you would, to make that happen. But to make that happen, you also have to have young families moving there. Young families to move there have to have a medical facility. There is none. We know that any young family that moves there with young children want to know, God forbid my son or daughter just breaks their arm. I'm not traveling an hour and a half. Jewish National Fund came to that answer. We're building a medical center in the Kiryat Shimona area. With the Culinary Institute, it is also a place in which we could take food technology. It is the technology of tomorrow, food technology, and bring it to Kiryat Shimona together with tax abatements that the government gave to that area. And we're bringing in companies that are going to start coming from all over the world. So together with housing sites, together with working with young leaders, so we're not leaving the community behind that's there. We're building them up, young leadership programs. All that we are doing is to change the narrative. And that is the way Jewish National Fund makes a difference with your investment.
Russell, that's just amazing stuff. So let me ask you this. Now that there's so much positive change between Israel and her neighbors, perhaps maybe we can expect to see an increase in cultural exchange in the culinary realm and in other fields too. How do you see these changes benefiting Jewish National Fund's work in Israel? Russell?
So, Tara, that's a great question. And you know what? It's everything that we do. Again, it's about narrative change. So you take the area of the Arava between the Dead Sea and Eilat, an area that mostly isn't traveled by a lot of our people that are here. But if you go down there, there are 14,700 heroes. Heroes that are cultivating a land in which you and I would look at and say, there's a lot of rocks here and a lot of heat. But what we also have done is taken that ingenuity, that entrepreneurial spirit, the knowledge that they have in farming and technology, and we brought people from all over the world. Over 1,500 students come to an agricultural school that we run together with the people in the Arava called ACAT. 1,500 students from Southeast Asia and Africa that are coming and learning and getting 22 college credit hours, learning and working, earning, to go back home after 9 months, not as job seekers, Tara, as job creators. Countries that some of them have not even a relationship with Israel. But we're doing that because we know that it will help change the demographics of the area. We'll bring in new teachers, new instructors, people with PhDs and new families. We've developed new housing sites. We work with the Arava Institute, a top environmental school that go on that campus at any day And you'll find Jordanian students and Palestinians, Israelis and American. You'll find Europeans all learning about something that has no borders called our environment. So we're creating those change, but we're also changing the area together. And, we decided that in the Arava, there was so much going on, so much that became replicable to the rest of the world. So we twinned with the University of Arizona, the whole Arava Valley, which is like a very large university in landmass, not so many in people, but the technology is awesome. And so we established the Global Water, Food, Energy Security program to be working in Africa together with the University of Arizona. We are going to make a difference taking that Israeli technology. The history of the Jewish National Fund of our hands in the soil, now we're going to take our hands and put it into the soil in Africa and help a farmer bring food onto their plate, thanks to Jewish National Fund.
Russell, so clearly Jewish National Fund is doing just such unbelievable stuff in Israel. In addition, as I know well, it's the only organization with an accredited high school semester abroad program in Israel, where high school students can continue with their core studies and learn about Jewish and Israeli history. Saul, I hear you've got some famous alumni too. Can you tell our viewers a little bit more about the school, the methodology behind it, and why it's so successful?
Sure, Tara. Since 1972, Alexander Muss High School in Israel has provided a unique study abroad program for high school students. The land becomes sort of like a living classroom. When Jewish National Fund acquired Alexander Muss High School in Israel in 2013, we knew it would be a critical component of our Israel Continuum, an educational program, and our success in the numbers. Today, Alexander Muss High School, JNF, has over 30,000 alumni who have taken part in the school's remarkable signature experience, learning this learning curriculum where you're in Israel learning history. Muss has created generations of Israel advocates, and its approach has been statistically validated. I'm going to give you a few statistics. 88% of alumni marry Jewish spouses. 65% participate in a Jewish Zionist organization. 63% are members of a synagogue, and 80% donate to Jewish charities. Alexander Muss High School in Israel is the premier semester abroad college prep program for high school students. Nowhere else do your children learn over 4,000 plus years of Jewish and Israeli history at the place where it actually happened, all while enhancing their college application, resumes, and general studies. Some of our more famous alumni include Sheryl Sandberg, COO of Facebook, Mati Siahu, our own Ron Werner, The Devil Wears Prada author Lauren Weisberger, and you, Tara, a famous alumni of Alexander Muss. Colleges are looking for that edge when a student is sitting through or a student is making application, let's say, to a college, and the college is looking through thousands of applications. Alexander Muss High School in Israel alumni have an advantage in getting accepted to the college of their choice. They're prepared for life on the campus. They've already been there. They've lived in dorms. They've taken college-style core studies. They learn how to live and think independently. These kids are equipped with the tools needed to succeed and stand out from the crowd. I want to add that while COVID-19 has changed the way school has resumed in the U.S., Alexander Muss High School in Israel is open with all the safety precautions in place, and we're at record capacity. This year, we also launched Frontier Israel. So this is a gap semester for high school students that just graduated and they were about to enter their freshman year at college, and their college was going to be virtual. They're going to be home, maybe taking courses online. They decided, I'm going to go to Israel with this new program from Alexander Muss High School, take a gap semester. And they volunteer and study in Israel. So this is another example of how we take people from the birth to the boardroom. Nobody else does that, just the JNF.
Wow, thank you, Saul. And did you hear that, parents? Pay attention. School is open and in session right now in Israel. So get your applications in. To do that, all you have to do is head over to the website, amhsi.org, and get that application going. But again, I really just can't stress it enough what a special experience that this was, not only for me, but practically my entire family. After I went to HSI, my younger cousins went, my younger sister went, and I can't wait for my own daughter. She's only 7 right now in first grade, but you better believe come her junior year, we will be getting that application in. It's such a wonderful rite of passage for my family and so many others. So my question is for you, Saul. Does Jewish National Fund have any plans to open up another branch or campus?
Yes, Tara. Actually, I didn't know your whole mishpucha went, but your daughter will be experiencing something very different than what you experienced. We're bursting at the seams at our Hod HaSharon campus. As a result, Jewish National Fund is building a second campus for the high school in southern Israel in Beersheba, where we'll be able to welcome even more students. In fact, we've broken ground on a revolutionary Zionist and Jewish Educational Institute in Beersheba to continue to meet the needs of the global Jewish community. The world-class $300 million Jewish National Fund Israel Education and Technology Campus will be a state-of-the-art institute, open to students and adults. This campus will include an internship, innovation, and technology center, Zionist Education Center, and a new southern campus of Alexander Muss High School in Israel, and with high-quality conference center facilities. Believe me, Tara, your daughter will be in facilities much different than you were in, but you're going to love going there and getting her enrolled.
Oh, I can't wait. I'll abide. Thank you for the exciting news. Let's make some more breaking news today, shall we? Russell, can you give us a hint about some news that we can expect to hear in the near future? Not that the developments with Galilee Culinary Institute and how to get kids into the classroom at HSI haven't been enough. Take it away.
Thank you, Tara. And if you put your deposit in now, we'll hold the price for you. It's something unusual for a philanthropic organization is that we took undesignated funds, $100 million, and we established, because one of our major donors of it was the Baruchin family, and we established the Baruchin Israel Education Center. To do that, we brought together our lay leaders from our board of directors and our professionals, and for 2.5 years, they have been trying to diagnose what can make the major difference in the American Jewish community. And Tara, it's in high school travel to Israel. Teenagers has gone down over the course of the past 19 years. Well, at Jewish National Fund, we like to do revolutions and make things happen. It's not about talking, it's about doing. So we're going to be announcing in November a program from our Baruchin Center that's going to allow teens to go on programs in Israel that are qualified as part of our Baruchin Center, not just Jewish National Fund programs from other organizations, other teen programs. We want all the ships to rise. And they're going to be able to get up to $7,500 off of a price to Israel on one of their programs. Now, to do that, we're also going to teach the meaning of tzedakah. The very important foundation of who we are as a Jewish people is because we don't have a word for charity. Our word is tzedakah, responsibility. And by that, through peer-to-peer fundraising, they'll be able to raise money for many of our projects in Israel. They'll learn about tzedakah, yes, about asking and about giving. All of our institutions were born because people had contributed from years ago, and our teenagers will have that opportunity. And then they'll have a grant from the Israel Baruch Education Center. We're going to be doing something that is going to revolutionize teen travel to Israel. Be on the lookout for this November, and it is going to be something that is going to turn our Jewish community around for the next 100 years.
Russell, that sounds unbelievable. Thank you for sharing all the details with us this evening. The Jewish National Fund Baruch Teen Initiative sounds like just such a clever, fabulous way to connect the next generation to Israel. I can't wait to tell my own mishpacha. I've got a long list of younger cousins who I know will be thrilled with this news. Russell, Saul, it has really been my honor, such a wonderful privilege to speak with you and learn more about the wonderful achievements and projects that you all have on the horizon. You know, 2020, it's been a tough year for all of us, but you have given us reasons to feel optimistic. 2021, in my eyes, is looking bright. And again, it's just great to know there's no shortage of amazing projects that Jewish National Fund is working on. And now, as we close out our virtual conference opening session, please join me and young Jewish theater, Broadway, and music professionals, Micaela Diamond, Nathan Salstone, Jake Levy, Michelle Beth Herman, and Natalie Janowski in the singing of the HATIKVA.
Kol od balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya
Nefate Mizrach Kadima Ein Letzion Sophia
Nam HATIKVATenu HATIKVA Shnot Alpayim Liatam Chofshi Be'atzenu Eretz Zion v'Yerushalayim Liatam Chofshi Be'atzenu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim.
Thank you everyone for participating. Just a reminder, sessions are being held every day this week, twice a day from Monday through Thursday, with a big close on Friday that will also welcome in Shabbat. Please refer to the digital programs we sent you or go to jnf.org/NC for the schedule. Tune in tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific for our session on building up Israel's North and South, and then at 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific for What's in Store for the World, the future of global food, water, and energy security. Thank you and good night.